there, my name's Richard Lewis. I'm the editor-in-chief of cadred.org and Tech9, the host of a show called Trash Talk and Esports Heaven. I work for a company called Heaven Media who do a lot within the esports space, and I'm a 10-year esports veteran, working predominantly as a journalist, but I've been a manager and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm here to talk to you today about cheating within League of Legends. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll probably be massively ignorant about it, because I know I was. Whenever I saw a player screaming, hacker, you must be cheating, I just put it down to Dunning-Kruger having gone, hog wild, and they were just angry at having a bad game. It didn't seem possible or plausible that cheats could exist within League of Legends. So much is server side, very little client side. And it just didn't seem like it would be realistic. I saw cheats advertised, but I always presumed that they were, I don't know, like a scam. Like you would input your PayPal details and all the money would disappear out your bank account to some mysterious Russian source. Or there were stories even floating around that it was like a sting operation from Riot. You signed up and Riot were like, okay, we know you're the kind of person who's going to cheat, and we hit you with a permaban. But anyway, I was talking to some pro players, well, not pro, but high ranking, not that long ago, and they linked me to this piece of software and said, have you seen this? And it was a piece of software called LoL Helper, and help you it does. It helps you in a very unfair way. And they said they were convinced more and more people were starting to use this, especially towards the end of the season with the end of season rewards that were available. And they thought it might be good if I could do a report on it. Now, coming from a place of total ignorance, it took me a while to sort of get educated about it. I had to speak to lots of other players. I had to go on some cheating forums. I had to talk to some cheat designers from other games. To maybe point me in the right direction. And eventually I sort of posted a Reddit thread about it, and that didn't have the desired effect either. I thought this would highlight the problem. People, and I know it was against subreddit rules, but I think this is important enough to have a discussion. Everyone sort of downvoted it. It didn't seem to be important. It seemed to be the done thing that we're not going to talk about this. Now, as I said at the start, I've worked in this kind of area for a long, long time. I must have covered about at least 12, maybe 12, 16 different esports titles in that time. And I've always seen cheats and exploits emerge in all of them, in all competitive titles. Now, in my experience, and this is what I want to explain to you from the start, is basically why I made this Reddit thread and why I wanted to draw attention to it. Because in my experience, the best form of action to getting these exploits removed from the game, to getting these cheats exposed and prevented, is by going public, is by full disclosure. I can give you an example of when this has been used by myself to a positive effect. There was a cheat in Counter-Strike Source called vent.exe, and basically what that did was it was an aimbot or an auto-aimer, if you're not familiar with FPS games, and you could assign it so it would snap onto a head or snap onto a chest. But what was dangerous about it was, because there was a slew of aimbots on the internet, anyone could download one. But what was dangerous about it was designed specifically for LAN play, for tournament play. It was about 278 kilobytes in size. You could fit it on some of these mice that let you have the macros on them. It was designed to basically be used in tournaments for money to pervert the course of those tournaments. And it had very small, slight movements. There was no overlay. When it injected into the game, you set it with numlock, I think it was, and basically you could choose what part of the body it snapped onto. But the movements were very small and imperceptible. You had to get your crosshair almost there, and it would do the rest for you. So you had to be a reasonably decent player anyway. Now, this was created in the Benelux scene. I believe it was a Dutch person who created it originally, although that's disputed. Some Belgians like to take credit for it. But it basically was being spread only amongst a very small few. And that circle broke and it got leaked to me. And I thought, well, I'm going to go public with it. Why let the cheaters have this when we can expose it? And what happened was, the minute it was exposed, I sent a copy to every league, every ladder, every anti-cheat coder. I sent a copy to Valve. It was about getting it out there. It was about, as long as it was public, two things could happen, and that is that all the people who make anti-cheat software would have it flag. VAC that's the Valve anti-cheat, would start banning people, or failing that, everyone would have access to it. So it would be a level playing field if you wanted to use this software, which isn't ideal, but it's better than just a small group of people having access to it, or at least in my opinion. And again, what actually ended up happening with that was, indeed, Valve, it started flagging as a positive. People started getting banned for it. LAN admins became aware of its existence. They would routinely check PCs to make sure no one was using any software. The tournaments, LANs didn't even run anti-cheat software, because who's going to cheat at LAN? That's the idea. And it makes you wonder how many people have got away with it because of that naivety. Anyway, that had a positive effect, and it had a positive effect because we went public. And again, I want you to think about, if you're still not convinced, I want you to imagine governing bodies in athletics, if they didn't talk about steroids and performance-enhancing drugs, if they had no policies against it, their policy was putting their head in the sand. Well, what would happen? The people who knew about this, the people who were taking them already, they would have an unfair advantage in competition. They would be free from any reprisals. There would be no attempt to even measure if people were using them, because, of course, the governing bodies don't want to talk about it. And it would competition would simply become about whether, are you willing to use this or are you not? And it would just cut through the legitimacy of the competition. Every time somebody won, there'd be question marks. Is he using performance-enhancing drugs? If somebody lost, there would be the question of what if they were? It would make the competition a joke, a farce. And that's why we have the rules in place that we do. And what we've got at the moment is this policy of burying your head in the sand, and Riot not addressing it. I tweeted to Riot. I've sent an email to Riot. I want them to address this. The reason is, it cuts to the heart of what League is about. The way the whole system is set up is that you're in this huge 32.5 million, maybe more, strong competition, if you like. That you climb through these leagues, through these ladders, to get recognised as being a set ability. Eventually, you could be deemed good enough to be one of the top 50 players in your region, not just your country, your region, your continent, and then you can be the top one in that. And all of this happens online. This isn't about the esports side of things necessarily. This is just about the core of what LoL is about. Well, if people can cheat and boost that, it removes the need for elo boosting. You can boost yourself with this software. And we all know what elo boosting does to the game. We see bans handed out. We see punishments handed out for that. People removed from teams, organisations. Riot are clearly against it. They have policies in place. They make statements about it. They have punished pro players. They say they will, it doesn't matter who you are, they will punish you. Now, when it comes to the use of this software, there's no official statement or standpoint on it. And that is dangerous. Now let's apply it to esports. You could be playing in an online tournament, and you could win an online qualifier that allows you to go and compete at a LAN event. And sure, you might get beat, you might get smashed, but you're there. You might even be guaranteed some prize money just for turning up, as a lot of these high-ranking tournaments are. That's really dangerous to esports, and it needs to be addressed. Now, I've tried a Reddit thread, I've tried tweeting, I've tried emails, so now I'm going to try a little video. What I did was I got one of the guys that I know to basically download it, to try it out, to show you what it can do. There's a little bit of a commentary on it. The video quality is not great because it wouldn't interact well with our video capture software. The client doesn't seem to like that very much. The client you have to log into, not the League of Legends client. You have to log into a separate client to activate this cheat. But I want you to think about this, and that is, that this is just one piece of software out there at the moment with thousands of people using it. Okay, well, the first thing I want to do is apologise for the pretty shitty quality of the video right from the start. This hack or cheat, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't seem to like interacting with the standard traditional recording software, and as a result of that, we've had to kind of improvise, and the quality isn't great as a result of that, but it will be enough to give you a gist. I also want to state from the offset, this was a bot game. We didn't want to even impact on the people's enjoyments in a normal game. While testing this, we felt a bot game was the way to do the least harm. Now, the first thing I want to draw your attention to, and it's probably the thing Riot might be most interested about, is it's got something called a skin tester. You saw at the start what look skins we had highlighted, Commando looks not being one of them, but here we are using it. Now, this is only client side, and of course the purpose of skins that look pretty boss in game and to give you some fake sense of status. But obviously, for the purposes of the game, it looks different. You get that aesthetic. So maybe that's something Riot will, will pique their interest. It could potentially impact on their income. Now, you'll also see lots of circles. First of all, I want to say that you do have the option to have it so you can see where everyone is. You can see where Renekton jumped out there. That's because we're not using the VIP version for the purposes of this test. But what it does do is when he goes out of range, it leaves him where he was last, which enables you to aim your skill shots a bit easier. You'll see when he goes through the brush, it happens again, and you can basically, there's some terrible play, but of course it's a bot game, but you can aim skill shots with better prediction, better accuracy. Now, the first thing you'll have noticed immediately is, wow, there's all these circles. This gives you enemy tower range, it gives you minion vision, and this that you're about to see here is the optimum ward placements to get the most vision from a ward. If you hit that circle there, as you can see our tester is doing, you get basically optimum ward vision. It's a nice sort of way to counter the inherent issues with some of the brush, but of course, again, it is still an advantage. I mean, I would argue that any player of a reasonable skill level would know the optimum ward placements, but again, it is an advantage. It is, no doubts about that. Now you can see this red circle that's following looks at the moment is a big is the minion vision from the big wave that's coming down. But what I'll draw your attention to here is the last hit helper. You'll notice as the minions get to low health, it tells you when to, it gives a circle and it tells you when to apply an auto attack. Now again, our tester's not doing a great job of that here, but there's no doubt that it is a advantage because timing last hits is one of the skills that's going to separate the men from the boys. Being able to farm consistently and last hit consistently is a very difficult skill. I would argue some will probably say you're talking like a bronze there, but it's definitely a skill. There's no doubt about it, and this makes it easier, even though, again, as I said, our tester perhaps isn't making it look quite so easy and is making a bit of a meal of it. But regardless, now other things that you're not going to be able to see here, because again, we're not using the VIP version, it's got a gank detector. So basically, if anyone moves within your range, you get a big flash of red text on the screen that says the jungler is incoming. Then there's just so many other things. There's an auto smite, so you can set it to auto smite Baron if you need to do a Baron steal to give you that heads up of kind of auto out smiting the enemy jungler. Auto ignite, so it'll use the ignite spell if someone comes within range, and you can kill them with it. It's got features that basically are going to give anyone a horrendously unfair advantage over somebody not using it. And this is why it's important, because the whole system that League of Legends has got set up is about that level playing field. It's about that fairness of competition. And there's no way that the whole system can stand up if software like this is proliferated. Now, this is just one of the bots. After I made the Reddit thread I was talking about earlier, I got linked to several other programs, some even more sophisticated than this one. And that should, if you love competitive League of Legends, you might say, well, okay, none of the pros are going to use this. Absolutely true. But it's going to bring into question the legitimacy of online play. There's going to need to be something put in place. The longer this is ignored by Riot, And as we said right at the start, 9 months, no bans, no detections. Riot haven't addressed it. I've emailed Riot. They've still not got back to me. This is, for me, for someone who's followed League of Legends for a long period of time, this is potentially a landmark moment within the game, because we've had these cheats. I knew nothing about it, but evidently for a while, and more people are using them. We're talking thousands of players, and that's going to grow. That's going to become tens of thousands. It's imperative that this is addressed and some sort of fix placed in the client, or maybe leagues get aware and they develop some form of anti-cheat that can take screenshots of this and they start implementing it in their leagues or ladders. Because the whole point of League of Legends, the whole point of the ranked system, is that where you are is where you belong. Anything that's going to pervert that really shakes the game to the core of its foundations. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I think we're getting to that stage now where League of Legends is always talking about how it wants to be a legitimate sport. Well, legitimate sports stop cheaters. Legitimate sports have safeguards in place to preserve the honesty and the integrity of competition. So that's why I've made this video. Hopefully that's been illuminating. I would urge you, if you care about this, to basically not put your head in the sand. Let's address it as a community. Let's make sure we can fix this, and let's basically, let's keep League of Legends honest. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching this, and spread the word.